Very good morning. Just feel we need to focus our hearts and minds. We're going to be looking at John 18 and 19. Can you hear me? No, that's better. John 18 and 19. And there's some big questions that are being asked in this. So before I speak, let's just still our hearts and minds. After the sermon, we're going to sing that song, Still. And I think what we're looking at, we need to take time to digest. So, Father, we worship you with our understanding, with our thinking, and with our emotions. We come here to feast on your word, to find food for our souls, so that our faith and confidence in you may be enriched. So we commit this time to you and pray not only the words we hear, but what you're saying to us directly into our spirits may bring life to us. In Jesus' name, amen. In John 18, I'm not going to read the whole account of Jesus before Pilate. If you don't know it, you do need to read it at home. But in John 18, verse 28, the heading in my Bible says Jesus before Pilate. This morning I'm going to turn it round and say it's actually Pilate standing before Jesus. And the song we sang earlier, which says rulers will one day be silent. And here is Pilate putting the questions to Jesus, in a sense demanding answers. But the day will come when every ruler will be silent before him. And every knee will bow to him who is the King of Kings and Lord of Lords. But in this instance, you have the ruler of the Roman government standing before what is portrayed as a pathetic figure. And Jesus is brought before Pilate. Do you know, if you record a film or a program, you can pause it. But if you're watching a film or a TV program live, do you know how they do the credits at the end? They scroll past, or they even do a preview of the next program, and you can't see all the characters. So if we recorded, who was playing that part? And we pause it to read. In this story, there's loads of characters. There's Caiaphas, there's the Sanhedrin, there's the Jewish authorities, there's a crowd. I'm not looking at those. There's two characters. There's Jesus and Pilate. And before we come to that encounter, just need to recap what has happened to Jesus. In John 18:28, it says, then the Jews led Jesus from Caiaphas to the palace of the Roman governor, to Pilate. What had happened? Well, Matthew tells us that when Jesus was arrested in Gethsemane, they took him to Caiaphas, who was the high priest, and the Sanhedrin gathered at night time, and they asked questions of Jesus, and he wouldn't answer until he's put on oath and asked, on oath, are you the Christ? And Jesus, having been put on oath, he has to say, yes, I am. At that, they went absolutely mad at him. They struck him, they assaulted him, they abused him, and they said, and they came to the decision, Matthew 27 verse 1, they came to the decision early in the morning, he has to die. Because he has blasphemed. He's claimed to be God. So they take Jesus to Pilate. But now they've got a problem. They've said he's worthy of death, but they don't have the authority to execute him. And they don't want it to be an assassination. You know, somebody just stick a dagger in him and let's get rid of him. They tried previously to throw him over a cliff, but that didn't happen. They want this to be a public execution of this man who has caused them so much trouble. But they need the governor, Pilate, to agree to this. And in John 18 and 19, you come to some of the most dramatic scenes in the gospel. I'm going to ask you to do something which is impossible for you. But imagine you were reading this for the first time and you didn't know how the story ended. Now, when we go into a second-hand bookshop and Fiona's looking through novels, she reads the last pages to see how it ends, because she likes a happy ending. If you were reading this story for the first time, you'd be intrigued. who is going to win this argument between Pilate and the Jewish authorities? Are they going to get their way, or is Pilate? At the time it's happening, neither Pilate knows how this is going to work out, and he's quite frightened about the consequences, nor do the Jewish authorities know how it's going to work out. Will they get their way? There is one person who knows how it's going to work out. And who is that? It's Jesus. He knew what the outcome would be. And he had predicted that. And he knew beyond the cross to the day of resurrection. And so in all this melee, there is one man who is composed and at peace within himself because he knows he's fulfilling the Father's will. And now we know about Jesus. If you don't know about Jesus, we can tell you, but I think the company here, you know about Jesus. Who's Pilate? Well, he represents, in this troublesome hotspot of Judea, the full weight of the Roman authority. He's got a tough job because as a conquered people, the Jewish people, there's always an undercurrent of rebellion and resentment against Rome. It's like a boiling cauldron ready to spill over. And Pilate, he needs cunning, he needs political savviness, and he has to perpetually parade the power of Rome through the streets with banners and swords and military uniform just to keep control. Now, as a man, he has no problem in killing people. Luke tells us of the time he actually killed people as they were, Jewish people, as they were sacrificing at the altar, and he mingled their blood with their sacrifice. He can act like that. Killing, part of the job. But as the man in charge of the law and order, he doesn't want to be involved in an illegal execution. And his first instinct is that Jesus is innocent and he doesn't deserve to die. Matthew tells us that when Jesus was brought before Pilate, Pilate had worked out that they'd done it because they were envious of Jesus. And envy is not a basis for capital punishment. At the beginning, he asked the Jewish authorities, what's the charge against him? And they hedge it by saying, oh, if he wasn't a criminal, we wouldn't have brought him here. Actually, no, it wasn't a criminal charge, it was a religious charge of blasphemy. And so Pilate, he's not convinced that their case is right. And at the end of this scene, Pilate's wife comes to him and said, I had a dream. And I'm telling you, don't have anything to do with this innocent man. Oh man, we can put our hands up. He should have listened to his wife. So here's an encounter. It's not like the meeting of the Samaritan woman or Nathaniel. Here's an encounter which ends in a very disturbing way. And the gospel can leave people disturbed and issues unresolved. We might find that when we go to the Rockfest. Some might respond, some just leave in a confusion. Later on, Pilate washes his hands. He could see he's not winning the argument. In fact, he's losing the argument. And, okay, but I'm washing my hands of this whole thing. And he says to the people, I am innocent. Is he? Has he done the right thing? Has he upheld justice? Or is he complicit in the death of Jesus? Just because you say you're innocent doesn't mean to say you are. I meet many people in my work who say they're innocent. And it's for others to judge. And ultimately, the judge of all the earth, he will declare innocent or guilty. And ironically, it is that one who is going to be the judge of all the earth who is standing there watching him wash his hands, saying, I'm innocent. One day, Pilate will have to stand before Jesus and answer for his actions. But as the story progresses, Pilate tries to wriggle out of this problem he's got. So he hears that Jesus is from up north, from Galilee. Oh, Herod, who's the ruler of that area, he's in town. I tell you what, I'll pass the buck, I'll send him to Herod. Well, that doesn't get anywhere. So then he says to the Jewish authorities, you take him and put him on trial. That's a bit of a dig at them, because Pilate knows they can't put him on trial and pass a death sentence. And it's just indicative of the complex relationship between the two of them. And they say, we can't do that, because we got no right to carry out this sentence of death. So then Pilate says later, well, I'll tell you what, I'll punish him, then I'll let him go. No, you can't do that either. Okay, I'll exchange him for Barabbas. No, we want Barabbas. And then John 18 and verse 4 and 6. I might have got the wrong reference there. It's not 18. Let me just get it. There we go. Finally, Pilate tries one more time. Do you want me to crucify this man? And in the end, he says, okay, have your way. And he hands him over to be crucified. At the beginning, the Jewish authorities wouldn't go into Pilate's house, his accommodation where it was all happening, because they were afraid of getting ceremonially unclean, going into Gentile premises. But their actions, never mind the ceremonial activity, their actions have polluted their souls. They've engaged in lies, in illegal trials, in misrepresentation. So when we look at this confrontation between Pilate and Jesus, what had Jesus said that had caused Pilate such problems? There's 4 questions that revolve around this, and they're deep questions. And that's why we did the exercise earlier. What question would you like to ask? Because there are some things in life I'd like to know the answer to. Fiona and I were talking, and by the way, can I just throw in, it was our 45th wedding anniversary yesterday. I'll just mention that. But thank you. I'll just mention that. But out of our union, we have 3 children, and Timothy is the youngest. And we were talking about our family the other day, and one of those questions, when Timothy was very small, just discovering about life, he looked at me and then thought about himself, and he asked this question: when I grow up, will I have Dad's head? Just couldn't work out, how does this child's head become a man's head? And Pilate, looking at Jesus, asked some very profound questions. In verse 33, Pilate went back inside the palace and summoned Jesus and asked him, "Are you the king of the Jews?" Now, if he was, that's a serious charge of rebellion. There will be cause for taking some drastic action against him. But I think also seeing Jesus there, dressed in robe, crown of thorns, having been assaulted and abused, this pathetic figure, I think there's some question here. Are you the king of the Jews? Are you a king? And Jesus says, "Is that your own idea? Did others talk to you? Let's have a conversation." And Pilate says, "Am I a Jew? No, it's your people that brought me here." And Jesus said, "My kingdom is not of this world. If it were, my servants would fight to prevent my arrest by the Jews. But now my kingdom is from another place. If I was of this world, we'd now be in armed conflict. They'd be trying to rescue me from this situation." But he leaves this enigmatic question: my kingdom is not of this world. If it's not of this world, where does it come from? What other place is there that it could come from? And he leaves the question hanging. Pilate, you need to do some thinking here. Verse 37, he says, okay, so you are a king. And Jesus says, yeah, but it's of this other world. Verse 37, you're right in saying I'm a king. In fact, for this reason I was born, and for this I came into the world, to testify to the truth. Everyone on the side of truth listens to me. And we notice from there, Pilate never stayed for the answer. Because he said, so what is truth? And he never stayed to listen. Perhaps that was a genuine question. Here is a leader who is involved in political intrigue. He's always doing deals behind closed doors. He's having to compromise. He's having to ignore his conscience. What is truth in all this? And here is truth standing before him. Pilate could have begun to find what is true. And as Jesus said, when you know the truth, it sets you free. He could have started the journey that made him a free man instead of bound by this system he's engaged in. And then Pilate asks this question, chapter 19 and verse 8. Where do you come from? This person is a mystery and an enigma. I've got the power of this kingdom, of Rome's power, and yet there seems to be something about you, this kingdom from another place. Where is it from? And we see the struggle that's presented within Pilate. And in the end, chapter 19 and verse 4, he says, I find no basis of a charge against this man. And he presents him to the crowd and says, here is the man. And their response is, crucify him. Because Pilate has also said to Jesus, come on, don't you realize I have the power to release you or crucify you? And Jesus replies, you would have no power over me if it were not given to you from above. Others who've handed me over to you, they blame a weight of responsibility. Caiaphas and the Sanhedrin, they had the power and they've brought me to this place. But all that is delegated power. We can see the dilemma Pilate's in. He tries to free Jesus, and now the Jewish leaders play their trump card. If you let him go, you're no friend of Caesar. Oh, my job's in jeopardy. And I might be recalled and all sorts of consequences could follow. I've quoted it before in a book called the Priests of Resistance, the story of one priest in the war. And he says that his motto was, I'm not swayed by fear or praise. And you see these two men. Here is Pilate swayed by fear. And here is Jesus unswayed by fear. What conclusion can we reach from this? That encounter between Pilate and Jesus is an encounter that every person must face. Here is the man. Now what will you do with Jesus? How will you respond to him? His kingdom is an eternal kingdom compared to the kingdoms of this world which are passing away. One has the symbol of the sword for power. Another kingdom, as Paul in his writing says, the symbols of our kingdom, listen to this, are purity, kindness, understanding, patience, sincere love, truthful speech, the power of God. These are the weapons of righteousness in our right and left hand. That's the kingdom that we represent. Here is Pilate in total confusion. And here is Jesus standing covered in peace. Pilate is back and forth, which is the right thing to do. But Jesus, having committed all things into his Father's hands, knows that this is his hour. He knew where he was going. The choice that Pilate faces, is he going to be true to himself, true to his conscience? Or is he going to just play the part? I can do no better than give two quotes from Bruce Milne, who made a comment on this. In this instant, the prisoner, Jesus, offers the judge freedom. That freedom may have cost Pilate his life. There might have been riots in Jerusalem. He might have been called, summoned, what on earth are you doing? But he would have found himself. What's happened is that Pilate, having failed to acknowledge the truth, now is in the power of the lie. And when all of us stand before Jesus in this life, we have to answer those questions. What are you going to do with this man? Are you going to accept his kingdom? Are you going to accept the will of God operating in your life? Are you going to be the person who, like Jesus, was willing to lay down his life so that he can find it? Or are we going to be people who hold on to our life but then lose it? We're going to sing a song. Earlier we sang the song, "In the mountains of joy or in the valley of tears, I will trust you." And it's the choice that we have to make. Am I going to trust this King? When the guidance is clear, when I can't see ahead, I will love you, I will trust you. Because we've discovered that he is, what is it? The way, the truth, and the life. And as he gave in the parable, the greatest treasure that anyone could ever find. Let's sing a song.